So, without further ado, I would love to introduce the wonderful Dr. Maria Gingidis, who will be hosting this next panel discussion, which is about your relationships at work, engaging effectively with colleagues and parents. Please join me in welcoming Maria.
Hello, hello, hello. I may know some of you, I may not, but I'm here at Monash in teacher education, and I top and tail the Bachelor of Ed Honours and have had Masters of Teaching in the past, and I can see some faces. So I have the first year core unit, and we just had our last lecture today for the graduates. And interestingly enough, the one topic that they are burning to have more skills around is exactly what we're talking about now. How do you meet the graduate standard of working with parents? So they have to do their TPA now. So since you have been gone, alumni, lots of things have happened. Teachers now have to have a CASPER test. So you get your ATAR and then you do a amazing, well, we call it amazing, but who knows what it is? We haven't researched it yet. So they do an EQ online quiz, and if they don't pass it, they don't get in, irrelevant of how high the ATAR is. So these EQ skills that we call soft, that we're going to talk about right now with these amazing panellists, are about how do you navigate the space of community relations. And much of that is about your EQ skills. And much of that is about the social, the welfare, the trauma around the families that you're working with as well, because you're supporting the children. So that is a really hard one. And then since you've been gone, literacy and numeracy, you cannot finish unless you pass the Landtite. And now we have the TPA, the Teacher Performance Assessment. So the 37 graduate standards and my 440 odd students right now have got the rest of this week to finish that task, and they have to show evidence against every standard. The difficult thing is, how do they show evidence on having been on placements with working with parents? And they're saying we can't show that evidence. So we're saying, well, were you in a parent-teacher interview? No, because my mentor felt that that was too personal. Okay. Were you in the school when the school discussed the protocols around how many times you contact parents through Seesaw, Class Dojo, Compass, Moodle, or whatever else you've got out there? And they said no. So then we've said, well, then to that standard, write what will you do when you go out there. So you are mindful of how you will work with parents. But unluckily, they're not in this forum, and they should be, because they would die to get the sort of information you're going to get from my panel. The panel are incredible women. I tried to find a male, but I didn't. So that's only because my networks didn't have anyone in this field, and it was a really difficult brief. There are early childhood, primary and secondary in this room right now. So can we have a show of hands? Early childhood? Fantastic. Primary? Well done. Secondary? Okay. So I've covered you all. And so what I have in front of me right now, and I'll ask the panel to come up one by one, is I have Skye Peterson. Skye, can you come up? Skye is the assistant principal at Bentley Secondary College. She has been an alumni. She finished a master's here, and she just finished the BASTO program with me, and that is preparing leaders for principalship. Now, just looking at her makes you realise, guys, as alumni out there, principals are getting younger and younger and younger, as are leaders. So Skye's here. I'll introduce all the panellists, and each of them will give you their background and their take. I have Susie Gamer here. Susie and I worked together at Forest Hill Secondary College many years ago. She worked with students with special needs. She was the psych teacher. She then went into primary. So she was a leader. She taught grade 6, and then she became, was it 5 or 6? Grade 6. And then she became, so from a secondary she went into primary, and then she became head of community relations at Berwick Fields Primary, where they have 1,000 students. So her job as a leading teacher was community relations. Then I have the lovely Deb Gibson. Deb and I have just met, but Deb works at Doveton and she is the principal now of Doveton Secondary, given that the current principal is taking over the senior college and they are doing a tag team to ensure that their students from P to 9 will go into a senior facility that is doing exactly what you saw on that video, creating an amazing community link and a way in which they are touching students' lives so that these kids from very diverse and low SFO, in fact, Greg is a masterclass presenter. You will hear him at 5, although I told Deb that the really important Doveton people come before 5. So she'll tell him that. But Greg, you know, actually said that Doveton had one of the lowest 5 SFOs nationally. So they had such a low SES that we're not talking about Victoria, we're talking about nationally. And what they did to turn that school around was around community and their relationships with parents, both in the classroom and outside. So Deb is part of that incredible work and she's now the principal, substantive principal of that school. Chrissy Tabakakis. I met Chrissy as a parent many years ago and she's got 3 amazing in the high school, children of her own, but she's at Doveton and she does incredible work with parents and community. So she is a secondary teacher and a mother herself and she works with Deb in spaces inside and outside the classroom. And that is the incredible Chrissy. Then I called on a mum. I wanted a parent voice who was also an educator. So Stacey Kelly with her daughter Liana, because like all mums, she couldn't get childcare. So Liana's going to join us. So this is Stacey Kelly. Have a seat, both of you. And Stacey is a primary teacher. She was also in occupational health, physiotherapy, then became a teacher. She is an educator, but she has one in preschool, so Liana is in preschool, and Liana's sister has just started prep. So she, not only as a teacher, she's now looking at this from the perspective of a parent that you contact. And let me tell you, when you're an educator, you have high benchmarks in terms of what you want and the communication you feel is the sort of communication that will assist your child learn best. Enough from me. I'm going to hand over to each of these amazing educators who will give you a brief background or a little brief bio, but more importantly tell you about the challenging and the positives of the work they do, linking it back to parent communication, community relations, and how that has effects on our student learning and how that is in our ball court right now, because we do, as educators, have to work in this space, and yet not a lot is being said about it. So I'll hand over to Skye, who has got a mic. Take it away, Skye.
So introductions first, Maria? Or, yeah. Okay. Hi, everybody. So as Maria said before, I studied my Masters in school leadership here a few years ago. In that time, I was a leading teacher for several years. I've actually only been teaching for 12 years, so it's not been a very long journey. 2 of those years, I've also been on maternity leave with my 2 young children. So it has been quite a quick rise to the position that I'm in. I've only been an assistant principal for a year now, so I'm still early in my experiences, and I've been doing the Unlocking Potential program with Maria at Basto, which has been fantastic. So basically, I'm at Bentley Secondary College just nearby, and my portfolio currently is curriculum, planning and feedback, which is a fantastic portfolio. I am. I'm a mum of 2. My daughter is 1.5, my son is 3.5, and my lovely husband, who is a music teacher at another local secondary school, works part-time so that I can work full-time.
Give us an example of the 2, so we'll do it that way. Yeah, go. Of how you work with parents, both positive.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I actually, right before I came here, was at a professional development session with the Australian Federations for Principals, and they were doing some information on inclusive education. And I think what stood out to me today was they were talking about having empathy for a parent. So when I have communication with parents, often it's actually at the end of the line. They've already had the communication with the classroom teacher. It's then gone to the coordinator. It's then gone to the sub-school leader, and then it ends up with me. In my school, I oversee all of the things that are under the curriculum portfolio. So if it's something to do with classroom teaching issue, it will come by my door. But as you can imagine, once a parent reaches me, it's escalated to quite high level. So it's really important for me to get all of the information that I need to be able to best address the parents' needs. First thing first, they just want to be heard. So a lot of the time what I do is just listen and just allow the person to tell me what they need to tell me. Sometimes it's a little bit of a vent, but it's just giving them that space and that time just to listen and give them the chance to express what they need to express. The next part is to buy myself time. Often I think we want to rush to try and fix things, and so we sometimes don't take a moment to say, I'm going to get back to you on this one. So it's reminding myself sometimes to go, okay, well, I just need to take a moment. I need to investigate a little bit further, and then I'm going to come back to you. And the reason why I'm going to do that is because it's in the best interest of your child for me to do that. And genuinely, if you're honest and upfront, you give a timeline. You don't speak in vague terms, but you say, look, I'm going to get back to you by the end of the week. I need to speak to your child's classroom teacher. I need to speak to these particular people that were involved, and I'm going to get back to you. And I'm doing that because I want to make sure that I'm getting the best result for everybody involved. So I think that's the first thing, is just to make sure that I'm actually getting all the information that I need and I'm not making rushed decisions. Because as you'll know, you, as a classroom teacher, have a perspective on how something may have happened in your classroom. The students involved will have a different perspective on what happened in the classroom. The parents will have a different message that they were told at home. And it's important that we get all of those messages and we sort of find the middle ground, because there's no one answer really at the end of the day. So recently I had a difficult situation. I'm a classroom teacher as well. I have a Year 10 drama class. And one of the students involved in a particular incident, which has been escalated up to the principal level, is actually in my classroom. And my principal asked me to come and sit in on a parent meeting with this student. And this has actually been now escalated to region. So an official complaint has been made to region around an incident that happened. The biggest issue for me is the kind of straddling the two roles of being the assistant principal at the same time I'm this student's classroom teacher. So I received an email that said from the department not to contact or speak to the student outside of my classroom, to only speak to the student in regards to teaching matters. And that was sort of, don't speak to her about anything else that's happened, which is fine. But can you imagine the kind of anxiety levels that student has when she's coming to my class? That she knows that this is all happening in the background and she has to come to my class and has to learn. So it was really important for me to communicate with those parents just at a classroom level. So a few days later, she'd been absent a few days in a row. And so I just sent an email home. Hi, just checking in. Just wanted to let you know this is what we've been doing in the last few lessons that your student may have missed. These are the resources that are available on Compass. This is the task that will be due in this time, and I'm here and available via email or in person if you wish to seek any assistance. So I guess my attempt was to sort of say to them, look, I'm the classroom teacher first in this situation. I'm not the assistant principal first, and I'm looking out for the best interest of your student, which in this particular situation was to make sure that she got the information she needed so that she could learn in my class. Thankfully, this week, things are a lot better. Everything's relaxed a little bit more, and we had a nice little chat at the end of the lesson when we were leaving. And so it kind of broke the ice almost, But it was a moment where I thought, gee, this is going to be hard. How do I actually work out, you know, my two different roles that I'm needing to play in this particular situation? Thanks.
Hi everyone, my name is Susie Gamer and I've had, I guess, a really long and checkered educational pathway, so it hasn't all been linear. I started in community development to start off with, but as a teacher, because I taught at night in the old school where you did night school for people who couldn't access education during the day. So I did VC psychology at two different TAFEs, Moorabbin TAFE, which is now Holmes Glen, and Dandenong TAFE, which is now Chisholm, for adult learners. And then during the day, I worked for DHS, for Centrelink, for City of Monash, the sort of community services organisations in community field work. So I mixed sort of my psychology, sociology background in the everyday 9 to 5, Monday to Friday job, but I also did the academic VC teaching at night. Thereafter, I got married. I had 3 boys who are now all adults, and the youngest, so unlike the rest of the panel, I'm at the last 2 weeks of my youngest being in education. Yay, yay, go, go. He's just about to graduate. So I guess I can share perspectives from that point of view as well. But in the meantime, while the boys were growing, I did about 13 or so years of TAFE and uni education throughout community services courses, as well as psychology, a little bit of marketing, etc. And then I ended up in a school as a deputy principal of a very challenging behaviourally students who needed to do a program to redirect their learning perspective and their behaviours so that they could then access other education. So these were students with additional needs, but not academic additional needs. They just had extreme behavioural challenges that precluded them from accessing everyday high school. So it was a very small setting. It was private or independent learning. And we had interesting challenges. So I'll go through where I've been and then I'll go back to the communication with parents. Thereafter, I went to Forest Hill where I met Maria Gindidis, and I headed the special needs unit. So basically there I changed the model where students with additional needs, funded students and non-funded students with additional needs were taught almost exclusively in another part of the school with not that many integrated programs, and I just took them out of there and integrated the programs into everyday classrooms as well as lunchtime and recess activities. So really merged the population so that there wasn't a segregation between those students and those students. Everyone was a student of Forest Hill. I went to a school called Press Hill thereafter. Many of you probably don't know where it is or what it is, but it was a school that was that began maybe 85 or so years ago. Some might say alternative, some might say Steiner, Montessori, mishmash. It's a school where people like Claire Bowditch, the singer, people who had ways of learning that were well beyond what the regular classroom and education systems could offer then would go to Press Hill. So it was a school with, how can I describe it, with open view of supporting the child where the child is at, growing their talents and enriching them and exposing them to life and upskilling them as a human being. Yeah? That led me to where I am now. And so from there I went, there was a job advertised as community development leader, and I thought, ding, 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 in a primary school. I can do primary school, sure. I mean, teaching is teaching, isn't it? Mm-hmm. Wrong. I learned how to teach, really, really teach in primary. So after 20-something years of being where I've just told you, I learned a whole lot of skills and strategies that expanded my horizon as to how kids learn, what pedagogy is, what education is, and that also led me to a different view of how to communicate with parents, with students, with staff, with colleagues in general. Back to the question of, so how do we communicate with parents? Skye's 100% on the ball saying that they want to be heard, but it's much more that it's all that unconditional listening is clear in our minds. What they want, like we all want, is not to be judged, not to be pigeonholed into areas of, it's that sort of parent or that sort of parent. They want to often just dump. They might have had a really bad day. They might be emotionally charged, and all they want to do is just get it out. I find that sometimes the best thing is to just say neutral things like, right, I can hear why that's important to you, or how was your day? How are you feeling? Would you like a glass of water? We're not in a hurry. Is there anything else you'd like to tell me? How's home? Just those neutral things really, really help them to connect with you as a human being. That's all they want, to know that you can connect with them. So as a parent who's been through kindergarten, primary, secondary and tertiary, and now they're out almost, I also wanted that. So flipping between being that parent and being the educator is a skill, and some of you may be already the parent, is really a challenge for ourselves, where we have to not learn about boundaries. So it's about a role. If I'm the teacher, that role is different to when I'm the parent going to my children's parent-teacher interview. So the language changes, the perspective changes. It's almost like a gear change in your mind. And I'm not a drama teacher, but I can imagine you have to sort of go into that, right, I'm not that. Change your persona and walk in as that other person. So it's almost like checking in with yourself. The other thing that Skye said, and I really back her on this, is don't answer any question, any email in a hurry. Sleep on it, talk to a colleague, walk away, reread it, don't press send. Write it on a doc, write it on a post-it thingy. Write it somewhere else before you press that button, because often something can charge us up, and we might feel, right, this is the third time you've contacted me, I've just told you, and we might respond from a different perspective. Cool, calm and collected, business-like. And the third thing I'd like to bring up is, because I don't want to take up too much time, is I think it's really important, and this is much more for primary but also for secondary, give your parents when you're available and stick to it. Don't have open door, yes, but, comma, between this and this and this. Otherwise, the primary school ones, especially the preppies and the first-time mums, they'll be at the door, knock, 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 and you will be on intravenous availability. No, you're not. You're going to burn out. Don't do it. Just give yourself the time that you need, and everything is like flexible. It's not going to be, the rule. But as long as they know when and what and how to behave with you, they will be very, very good to you. Yeah, and that also applies to secondary. With emails in secondary, just be really mindful of the language so that it's factual, fairly neutral, business-like, and solution-focused. That you're working with them to solve for best fit for everybody. Okay, so I'll pass it on to Deborah.
I'm pleased I'm not last, because everyone would say all the things I wanted to say. What a great opportunity to talk about myself, and everyone has to listen. So I haven't always been in education. I used to be a chemical engineer, and I did that for long enough to realise that I didn't want to spend my whole life doing it, and that I didn't want to be making money for other people, which is essentially what I was doing. So I got into teaching later on in my life. So I'm primary and secondary trained, so I've worked in both primary and secondary. And did most of my teaching, started off in the leafy greens in high-performing schools, and that's where my children went, so I have a lot of experience in those schools, 3 children, all of whom have finished now. Then I went to a secondary school and I was there for, 3 months, and they said, do you want to be a leading teacher? And then 3 months after that they said, do you want to be an acting AP? And so I did that for a long time and decided to go to Basto and do the Unlocking Potential course. So I had a little career plan mapped out. And when I did the Unlocking Potential, I elected to go to a school with a community focus, because you have to pick somewhere to work on a focus area, and I wanted to do community because I didn't know much about it at that point. So I did my internship at Doveton for 4 weeks. So I went there and absolutely loved it. And you go for 4 weeks and then you go back to your school and you're supposed to implement things you've learnt and embark upon your career plan. So I went back to my school and changed my career plan and basically said, I'm sitting tight till I find a job at Doveton. I'll just patiently wait for it to show up, which it did quite quickly. So yeah, the internship led to me going to Doveton. I was assistant principal there for 2 years and now I have the principal role. So what struck me about Doveton was 2 things. The first thing was every school has a mission, every school has values, and they all talk about it. But you need to go into a school and have a look at it to see if those mission and values are real. And for me, the thing that stood out at Doveton is every person matters. Not every kid, not every student, every person. And you got that feel that every person in the college was important. And the values in the college were visible everywhere. They're written on every wall, they're in every classroom, every meeting room, but they're also visible in interactions that you have with people throughout the college, not just the students, the staff, and also the families. So that kind of struck me. And the other thing too is the amazing complexity of the place. Like, there is so much happening there for all members of the community. So we have early learning. The youngest kids we have in there are probably 4 or 5 months old. So we have the early learning. Then we have prep to year 9. We're still wondering why we had to finish at year 9, because that's caused us a few problems. But anyway, that's how it is. Then our kids move on, and then we have adult education. So we have about 200 adults who are engaged in education at the college throughout the school year. So the whole notion of learning, no matter who you are, is absolutely central to the college, and you get that feel when you go in there. So, for me, it was that every person matters here, and it's all about learning, no matter how old you are. Learning's a lifelong thing. So that's what struck me at Doveton, and that's why I sat tight and waited for a job to come up, and here I am. So for me, a dream job. What I would say about dealing with people is, and I'll start with parents, there is no doubt that parents love their kids. And if we love their kids too, that's the middle ground. And so if you start with the premise, no matter what this person's upset about or interested in or, curious about, at the centre of that is our shared wish for the best thing to happen for that child. No parent shows up and says, do an ordinary job with my child. They all want the very best for their child. So if you start every conversation that you have with a parent or carer with that premise, they want the best for the child, I do too, together, that's what we're trying to do, you're well on the way to having a positive relationship. The other thing too that I say is, if your first interaction with anybody, student, colleague, parent, doesn't matter, if your first interaction is a positive one, again, you're well on your way to a positive relationship. So, I say to teachers, take the time to call up the parents in your class and just say, hi, I'm your teacher, or hi, I'm working with Johnny this year, just letting you know, any concerns, anything you want to share with me, give me a call, right? Don't wait till Johnny's done something wrong and that first interaction is, Johnny wagged my class today. Much better to have the relationship. Then you ring up, hi, it's Deb, we talked the other week, blah, blah, blah. So I think that notion of the first interaction being a positive one is a really purposeful and powerful one. And, this shared, the child is at the centre of everything we do. And if that's your assumption, parents want the best, I want the best, then you can overcome anything really. This notion too, I totally agree about the open door. Like, we all need to be accessible, that's part of the job, but there are only 24 hours in the day. and you shouldn't be spending the vast majority of them doing your work. You know, you've got to go to work. It's hard work. It's intense work. And so there needs to be time when you're not doing the work, you know, when you're just clearing your brain and doing the things for yourself. And that includes emails. So I understand, and I do this. There are times when I've sent off emails at 3 a.m. because that suited me, you know. But it's a bad thing to do because people look at it and go, oh, we should be doing that too. If that's what she's doing, we should be doing it. Not saying that at all. And also the other thing too is if I'm sending emails to parents at 9 o'clock at night, they're like, oh, hello. They all should be doing that. So if I send an email to a teacher, why haven't they responded to me? And I don't expect any teachers to respond at 9 o'clock at night. And I say to them, do it during business hours. And I know they don't, and I know why. But what I'm saying is, you know, kind of set up that protocol so that you're creating the expectation. I am available, but I'm available during work hours. I can't be doing this 24/7. The other thing about the open door policy too is we have worked very hard at Doveton to have a community of trust where we trust all the people in the community. We have adults coming and going. We don't have a whole lot of security and we have no problems. But there's a lot of work to be done there and a lot of things behind that. So one of the things is I am very accessible and people will come in, you know, I have no idea what the background to their story is, what the background to the issue is, and they want to talk about it then and there, and that's okay. But I don't always have time to do that. So I say to people, thanks for coming. I can give you 5 minutes now, but then I've got to go. Like I say that at the start of the conversation. Not trying to get rid of you, but I can only give you 5 minutes, 3 minutes, and then come back. And the other thing too is I have parents who come and tell me that, you know, Mary lost her jumper. And my business manager says to me, what are you dealing with that for? That's not your job. But the thing is, it's really important to that person. Mary's lost her jumper. So I am not usually going to go and find the jumper. But if I can, or if I can point her to where it is, like that has gone a long way to saying, you know, someone's going to deal with my problem. And, you know, if the problem is only Mary's lost her jumper, that is great. And if I can fix that, it's unlikely she's going to have a bigger problem next time. You know, she's going to come and sort it out. So sometimes the little things that you don't think are worth the trouble go a long way to making sure you don't have bigger problems.
Thank you.
I'm Chrissy. I've been teaching since God was a boy, and I've been working in and around schools in Doveton for my entire teaching career. I began in 1994 when I left Monash, and I'm very nervous. I'm not a good public speaker. I'm great with kids, but not so good with adults. So I'm working in a secondary setting mostly, but I do teach in the primary as well. I am primary trained, and when I was successful in getting a position at Doveton College, it was to work in the primary setting, and suddenly they had a Year 7 program with a view to going forwards, and I was put into that program. So I teach humanities in Year 8 mostly at the moment, but I also teach media mostly, and I'm in charge of the Futures program there. The school is a really dynamic place. It's also a very unique place. We have a really diverse community that is made up of people who are both new arrivals and very aspirational, and we also have a community of people who are severely, I'm getting nervous, I get a bit emotional, sorry, who have really unique needs and often come from trauma backgrounds. So, sorry, I told you this would happen.
You're doing great. Yeah.
I'm not, anyway.
Yeah.
So, my love of my job is about the relationships I have with the people. So let's talk about that. It might be easier than talking about the problems. So in regard to communication, I think the best communication starts with a strong relationship. So when you are at all starting with your first class or your fifth class, whichever it is, whether it's a semester or a term, the first thing you should be doing is contacting parents with a positive. Hey, just want to let you know, Jimmy was great today. This is an example of what he did. Send a photo. Here's me and Jimmy doing something fabulous. And that introduces you, it introduces the positivity of your classroom, and it makes the first interaction a really positive one. And then it also allows you to sort of say, hey, this is when I'm available, all of those things. And it's also a way to open the door to communication. We work with parents who quite often, whether it's because they don't speak English or they're illiterate themselves, or they had a really negative experience at school, have a view of schools as being somewhere I do not want to go. You can send home 1,000 notes, they won't respond to them. So you have to be really ingenious in the way that you attract them up. Quite often we do it with food, because food is something that all cultures share, and if you can feed people, they will come. So that's a Greek thing, and also an Irish thing, because I'm half and half, but green for the Irish today. So it's something that I think you need to be able to share a little bit of who you are and allow that to be seen by the community and make their experiences positive. Because if you've got a parent who dropped out of school in year 8 or 9 and is on, a single mum with 5, 6, 7, 8 kids, then they probably can't fill out the forms that you're sending home. They maybe can't help with the homework. They don't know that there's access to different things, services and things that you can refer them to. And that brings me to the relationship again. If you have good relationships with the other colleagues in your school, when that parent comes up, you can say, hey, I can't actually help you with that right now, but if you come with me and I'll introduce you to Anne at the front desk, she's got a person that I know can help you with this. You're struggling with the uniform. Come with me. I'm going to take you over to Sharon, and Sharon's going to help you with that. So it's about knowing the people you work with who aren't necessarily teachers, because sometimes it's the maintenance guy who can help that mum with the broken lawnmower or whatever it is. So it's about knowing your community, the community you work with, the community you work in, and it also gives you a really good perspective on the students you're working with when you understand where the parent is coming from. They don't always know how to help their kids. So we need to help them help their kids.
Thanks, Christy. Thank you. Last one, and then we'll get you to ask a few questions because it's taken longer than we thought. But go for it, Stacey.
I will be quick. I don't have too much to add to the communication side. Oh, I should give you a background of who I am, sorry. I've got 2 daughters. One started prep this year and one's in 4-year-old kinder. So I'm kind of on this wave of the digital revolution of communication that's coming with Seesaw and Class Dojo and all that kind of stuff. I've spent many years being a physiotherapist in paediatrics, and a little while back decided that I would like to go into teaching. So technically I'm kind of a new service teacher as well, because after I graduated I took a few years off in maternity leave, and now I do a bit of CRT work here and there, which is always loads of fun but doesn't involve a lot of that parental communication. So I guess I'm coming at it from the parent side mostly today. I don't have a whole lot more to add than what these ladies have said, except what struck me about them is the sort of how passionate they are as teachers and really wanting to find the best outcome for the students that they teach, and you can see that in everything they say and the way that they say it, and as a parent that's what I want to see. So thank you.
Thank you so much. So I'm going to open it up now to the forum. Who has a burning question around our topic today, community relations? To the parent, to our leaders, to the teachers.
Hello, thank you for sharing all of your stories with us. My question is not so much communicating with parents, it's communicating with colleagues who are quite negative minded, and I'm actually in a school this year where unfortunately there's minimal support from leadership, and so it's been quite a challenging environment to navigate in many ways. I guess my question is how do you navigate those relationships with teachers who are just really negative and shut down, and how can you make that better, or can you make that better?
I'm happy to take that one very quickly. Are you in primary by any chance, or secondary?
I'm actually at a prep to VCAL special school.
Okay, but you're focusing on primary?
No, I'm a performing arts teacher.
So you take the whole lot?
Right up to VCAL.
Okay, so in life in general, control the controllables, not the uncontrollables. So you've got a lot of control over what you can do, and you can model. You can model what and almost not block, but not respond to that negativity. So identify what you'd like to, or identify what you'd like the outcome to look like, and work backwards. Yep. And maybe with there'll be somebody who's positive. Workshop. So this is where I want to get the blockers are, not the people, but the behaviours. This is blocking it. They didn't get a good night's sleep. I don't know, their health is bad, so they're always negative Nancy. You can't do anything about their health, but you can do something about this is where you want to get to. Help me, appeal to there will be something there that they're still in the profession, not just because of the money.
There for the money. Are you in a specialist role? Are you your own PLT?
I am.
Yeah. I think that's a real challenge because I've worked in lots of different specialist roles, from media to arts and performing arts, visual arts, all sorts of things. And often you're the only one. So everyone goes off to their English PLT meeting, or the Year 6 group meet, and there's you. You don't match it. You're not really PE. You're not So it's about finding a common ground, and I think being kind, just exude kindness and smile a lot, and food, box of roses. Have those conversations away from professional conversations with people. So develop relationships with them that aren't about teaching. Get to know them, allow them to get to know you. And I'm not saying, bare your heart, when I was 3, this happened. It's about letting them know you as a person. And if there's something happening, social staff functions, get involved, bring your partner, talk about your kids or whatever it is, and let them know you as a person. You will then build relationships with people that will lead to collegiate success, because you'll then be able to network with others. But they have to know you as a person first. And being on your own PLT is tough. Yeah.
Thank you. Do we have another question?
Yeah, thank you. Hi. I've been teaching at secondary school for 2 years, and I'm still scared of contacting to parents because I look younger than my actual age. Yeah. And I'm scared of talking about students and giving advice to parents who is who is older than me. And I'm scared that parents are thinking that this young lady is making some comments on students. And how did you overcome these difficulties when you started teaching?
I'll take this one. So obviously when parents come to see me, they're a bit like, I actually had a colleague say to me the other day, "Oh, you're the assistant principal." I was like, "Yes, hello." He's like, "You're very young." Thank you. That's lovely. So it is, and Marie and I have had this conversation, a little bit of that kind of imposter syndrome, where you go, should I be in this job? Somebody's put me in charge of something and I don't know if that's a good idea. But I've been put in charge of what I'm doing for a reason. It's the same as you. You're doing this career for a reason. You got through your course. You are teaching. You are the expert now. And just because those parents went to school once doesn't make them the expert. So you are working with that child during the week, several times a week. You are getting to know that person. You may be actually spending more time with their child than they are at home. And so you have a really valuable contribution to what you can do to make that child's learning experience the best it can be. So really just owning your experience and your expertise, I think. And everybody feels a little bit of imposter syndrome all of the time.
Spot on.
And I'll tell you what, the other thing is, if you can find an insight about a kid and say, your kid knows so much about Star Wars or something, like some insight into the kid, and you share that with the parent and they go, "Oh, hello, yes, that is my kid. She knows my kid." Then all of a sudden they're like, "Oh yeah, she knows my kid, so I'm going to listen now." Like, if you can find a thing that you know about that child, not a school thing, that says to the parents, "Yeah, I know that kid," they're like, "Okay, I'm going to listen to her now."
Sorry. And don't use teacher language, because the parents don't understand it. Acronyms especially, we drop everything, PLT, they got no idea what you're talking about. Talk about the work. This is what I need you to support with. This is how I'm here to help you. So it's about a team thing.
Okay, do we have another burning question? Because I know the time is of essence. Over here.
Thank you. My question is similar, but not the same. I'm a secondary teacher teaching VCE, so I do not have the chance as primary teachers to build a relationship with the parents, like to see them randomly before school, after school, and say, how have you been, how was your day? So there's no such chance for me to see any parent instead of when I got a problem with the child and I give a call to the parent and say, your child had this problem and that problem and I need your help and your support. So it can be very scary for the parents because I am a parent too. So I'm very interested in what Deb said about building positive relationships with the parents beforehand instead of just telling the problems. So what kind of plan I can have to be proactive?
So, yeah, there's only 24 hours in the day. So my daughter did Year 12 last year and I didn't hear from any of her teachers once in the whole year. You know, that was Year 12, arguably the most important year of her schooling, and yet I didn't hear from a teacher. And you know what? All I needed was just an email at the start of the year that said, hi, you know, I'm Louise and I'm the English teacher this year. Any problems, just give me a call. I didn't need to call her, right? There were no problems. But my point is, I didn't hear from a single teacher for the whole year. All I wanted was just a little email, because they got all the information, like it's all there, you know, as a teacher, you got it all. You send an email, it can be the same email to every family. Hi, I'm the teacher, you know, really happy to have so-and-so in my class. Any problems, just give me a bell. That's all we have to do. Even, and I understand, ringing people takes a long time, I know that. Even if you send that email that says, I'm the person that you need to call for this subject, that's all you need to do. I'll just be like, oh, thanks for contacting me. I wouldn't have needed to call them, but it would have been nice to know I could have.
Can I just add to that you've got the strong point because you just said, I'm a parent. I would start the email saying, hi, Mr. whatever. As a parent myself, blah, 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 and go on. You'll have them. Yeah. You don't need to say anything more because you're saying, I'm like you, you're like me, we connect.
That is a beautiful thing to end on. Can I just say, I want to know from Stacey, how does she have such an amazing child that sat through the whole thing without anything? So can we all say hello to Liana, who's on the end there? Hello, Liana. And she has been incredible. So at the end of this, I'm going to ask Stacey, how do you produce children and grandchildren like this? So I just want to thank our panel and I just want to say, can you give us one last sentence because you haven't said much, Stacey, and our panellists have been incredible. My heart went out to Chrissy. Deb was just the sort of principal I want. Susie with her incredible experience and her warmth and psychology, and my young leader Skye, who I wish I could put Skye and Deborah together because I would have the perfect school. And then you've got this gorgeous mum here who hasn't said a lot, but everything is in how her daughter has behaved. So would you like one sentence to tell everybody about how to communicate with a parent?
I guess from a primary school perspective, we do see the teachers as we drop off and pick up, but it's not a lot of time to say, hi, how are you doing? With school, the way the teachers tend to do a lot of their communication is through the Seesaw app. And it gives us the opportunity to see what the child has been doing, and then we can talk to them about it at home, because often your 6-year-old will come home and you say, what did you do at school today? And they're like, oh, no, I can't remember. I played in the sandpit. I'm like, oh, okay. But you don't really know as much about the curriculum stuff that they're doing. So that's a really nice, positive way to communicate that also gets the child involved and builds those conversations at home about what learning is happening. So that's, I guess, the final kind of comment. Use your technology. Parent, not too much.
Yeah. Parent as partner, I think is what you're saying. And I think the partnerships. Can we just thank our forum and our panellists? Thank you. Thank you to all who are in this room. Thank you to Megan, who has done so much work behind the scenes. I owe these incredible people a lot. I'm sure they're going to make me remember that. But it has been a privilege being in this room with you all, and it has been a greater privilege that I had to organise some of the most amazing voices in education to come and spend this time with you, and I got to sort of see them a little bit too. So thank you so much, and thank you to everybody who also participated. I'm sure there are other questions, but hopefully you got a few strategies and you were touched by the passion in this room. Thank you.
Thanks, Maria, and thanks everyone. Give another round of applause for Maria for her fantastic facilitation. Maria is every year, without fail, voted one of the top academics and teachers within Monash University, and I'm sure you can all see why. So we're very grateful to have her today here with us. So thank you.